Hey guys, it's Carly from All the Pretty Books. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I've been collecting Harry Potter books since around 2009, and I collect everything from rare and signed books, which I started collecting in 2009, and translations, which is what you see mostly here in this room. I have a website, alltheprettybooks.net, which is pretty comprehensive and lists pretty much quite a lot of the editions that you can find from all around the world, as well as the Book That Lives project, which I worked on with my friend Harrison, and you can hear at least the first paragraph from most of the translations from all around the world. So you can hear what Harry Potter sounds like from many countries around this cool planet. So with that now said, I am so excited. I saw the trailer for the new HBO show. I'm sure there's been so many Harry Potter videos that have been made about it. I've been talking about it with all my friends, my podcast co-host, Peter the Potter Collector, and we have had so much fun. I'm very excited about it, and I couldn't get the idea of Butterbeer out of my mind. It's Butterbeer, like, I guess, season, and I've been seeing all the Butterbeer treats at the park, and I'm not able to go to the parks right now just because basically my work schedule is pretty crazy right now, and traveling is also a bit hard. So anyway, I thought about the first time I met Butterbeer in the books and what I thought Butterbeer should taste like, and I made a cookie recipe based off of that, and I'm real excited to share it with you guys. But first, I wanted to go back to where we first meet Butterbeer, and we first meet Butterbeer in Harry Potter Book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. If you have the US edition, which is where I first read the book, it is chapter 10 in the Marauders map. It's like page 200 for the hardcover first edition. It picks up when Harry has taken the Marauders map that the twins gave him, and he goes down into Hogsmeade and with the invisibility cloak, which is such a fun part of the book. He's met up with his friends. They're at the Three Broomsticks, and Ron says, "That's Madame Resmerta. I'll get the drinks, shall I?" he added, going slightly red. Harry and Hermione made their way to the back of the room, where there was a small vacant table between the window and a handsome Christmas tree, which stood next to the fireplace. Ron came back 5 minutes later, carrying 3 foaming tankards of hot butterbeer. "Merry Christmas," he said happily, raising his tankard. Harry drank deeply. It was the most delicious thing he'd ever tasted, and seemed to heat every bit of him from the inside. And I always wanted to taste butterbeer after kind of reading the books, and of course the parks came out later with their version of butterbeer, and I always enjoyed the park butterbeer, but it was always a little too sweet after like the first or second drink for me. I can drink the frozen one better than the regular one or the hot one, but it just gets too sweet for me very soon after. And a few months ago, maybe last month, I don't know, I was on Facebook and I saw Sonia Norwood. She was sharing her Black History Month recipes, and she shared this delicious recipe for burnt sugar cake, and it was so good. I made it, and the burnt sugar syrup that flavored this cake is incredible. And when I tasted the cake, I couldn't get over the feeling that was how I felt butterbeer should taste to me. And the cake itself, it's not caramel, it's not quite butterscotch, it's this rich, buttery flavor though, and I just couldn't help but feel like this kind of reminded me how I always felt butterbeer tasted when I read the books. So I made cookies, and that's what I'm sharing with you today, is my cookie recipe from start to finish that includes the burnt sugar syrup that I learned from watching Sonia Norwood make this cake. And I'll share her video down below, because she talks a lot about the history behind the burnt sugar cake, which is really interesting as well. And I'll share her video down below, and I'll go through and give my recipe down below as well. I know I'm definitely a Slytherin and not a Hufflepuff, but my best friend Jess sent me this apron, who is a Hufflepuff. And it's her former apron that she got from Williams-Sonoma, and it is really comfortable to bake in, so I had to wear it. The recipe to make the burnt sugar syrup is fairly straightforward. You need 8 ounces or 1 cup of granulated or white sugar, and you need 8 ounces of boiling water. So in the pot up front, I put my 8 ounces of white sugar, and in the second pot behind it, I put a little bit more than 8 ounces or 1 cup of water. For the pot with your sugar in it, swirl it, don't stir it. Throughout this process, I continued swirling the pan to help the sugar brown or caramelize evenly. And while the video is sped up, once the sugar does start to brown, it goes pretty quickly. It's about time to add the 8 ounces of boiling water to the sugar. And please do so carefully. This part always makes me jump. I turn the heat down to about medium-low and I let it go for about the next 4 minutes. I want the burnt sugar syrup to be a nice deep amber, and I think we're almost there. This recipe should give you about 8 ounces of syrup. Let cool to room temperature before use. For this Butterbeer cookie recipe, I took my chocolate chip recipe and I've kind of tweaked it to fit, and I think it'll actually work pretty well. I start with 2 sticks of unsalted butter at room temperature. I don't have a stand mixer yet, so hand mixer it is. And to these 2 sticks of butter, I'm going to add 1 cup of white sugar. I'm not going to add any more sugar because remember, half of our sweetener is going to be 1/2 cup of the burnt sugar syrup. So in my cupboard, I have about 5 or 6 different vanillas for different types of flavors that I'm going for. I like Watkins baking vanilla for a little bit sweeter treats. Here I'm using a little bit less than 1 tablespoon. Butter extract for Butterbeer cookies. I use this actually quite a bit in my baking, but I have found if you use too much, I think it tastes chemically. So I use about 1/8 of a teaspoon, but what I do is I tend to eyeball it into whatever measuring spoon I've just used. So here I'm pouring about 1/8 of a teaspoon into my tablespoon. So I know it looks like I'm using more than I am. 2 large eggs that I put in one at a time and mix in between. And now it's time to add 1/2 cup of the burnt sugar syrup and mix. Sifted together into this bowl, we have 3 cups all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon salt. I like this smaller spatula because it feels like I have more control. Mix until everything is kind of loosely coming together. And then add your butterscotch chips. Butterscotch chips. I usually prefer other brands, but they did not have any other brands where I was shopping. I add about 1/2 package to the bowl. And with the same spatula, keep mixing. It's okay if all the flour is not mixed in. You don't want to overmix your dough. Because of the burnt sugar syrup, the cookie dough is not as firm as I would like to work with. So I wrapped it in plastic and put it in the fridge for 24 hours. Normally, I would set my oven for 375 degrees Fahrenheit, but since I live in high altitude, I set it for 385 degrees. The cookie dough was much easier to work with after sitting overnight in the fridge, and while I usually use a smaller cookie dough scooper, I couldn't find it, so this one will have to do. I lined each cookie sheet with parchment paper and baked each sheet separately for 9 minutes. I let the cookies cool on the sheet for 3 minutes before I put them in the plastic bin that you see on the left. I actually made 2 batches of this dough since I'm planning on making cookie sandwiches. I'm letting my cookies cool to room temperature before I make the frosting. Also, I cannot explain how wonderfully magical my house smells right now. Again, here too, I really don't care for this brand of cream soda, but I couldn't find another one, so here we are. I couldn't get the idea of a nice, light, kind of cream soda, marshmallowy, creamy frosting for these cookies out of my head. 2 cups or 16 ounces of cream soda is what I start with here. And I'm going to reduce this down until it's about 1/4 cup and make another syrup out of it to help flavor the buttercream frosting I'm going to make for the cookie sandwiches. Overall, this took me simmering about 40 to 50 minutes to get to the consistency that I wanted. I did have to lower the temperature the more it reduced down to avoid burning the sugar. That looks good, so I'm gonna let it come to room temperature. I'm making a buttercream frosting. For this frosting, I've got 2 sticks of room temperature unsalted butter in my bowl, and again, my handy dandy mixer. Thinking about it now, I wish I would have made a whipped cream frosting, but I'll do that next go round. I whipped this for about 5 minutes. It's at this time I realize I don't have my vanilla paste. I prefer vanilla paste if I'm not going to be cooking it through. But as it stands, 2 teaspoons is what I'm using. You can see our cream soda syrup on the top left in front of the sugar. And then I've also set out some heavy cream. That's all I've got, or I would have made whipped cream frosting. instead of buttercream, but I figure it could help flavor the buttercream a little bit and be a little bit creamier. But before I add anything additionally to the vanilla, I want to mix it up in the butter. I drizzle in some of the syrup and some of the cream. I will be using a total of 3 cups of powdered sugar in this frosting, each one sifted, but I will be drizzling in the syrup and the cream in between each cup. I've got a wee bit of milk to help thin it out just a little bit more. It's not my favorite buttercream that I've made, but I think it'll balance out nicely with the cookies. Now, time to put the cookie sandwiches together. While I wish I knew where my piping bag and tips were so I could make the cookies look a little bit prettier, or a lot prettier as it were, I'm just going to use a spatula to spread the frosting onto the cookies. Finished. I'm really pleased with how these turned out. It's a really nice balance and they're not too sweet. Just a lovely, buttery, creamy, yummy flavor. And now for the taste. It's really good, you guys. I think what I wish I would have remembered to do is brown the butter as well, just to enhance the buttery flavor and to pull that out a little bit more. And next time, and there will be a next time, I will most definitely do that. The frosting by itself, I don't know that I would put it on like just a regular vanilla cake, but it pairs so very well with this flavor of the cookie. And the cookies themselves, they're not super sweet. I think it's actually a really good balance, which is what I was trying to do, because Butterbeer at the parks for me gets too sweet. It's too overwhelming. And this is really, really good. I'm very proud of that, actually. I feel like it's a really good balance between like sweet and rich. And it's really delicious. It's creamy. It's happy. And because you're using that syrup as part of the sugar, the crumb of the cookie will be different than like if you're using all sugar, like brown sugar and granulated sugars. Because you're using a syrup as part of the sugars, the cookie will have a slightly different texture. So just be aware of that. It's so good. It is so good. That to me is what I always kind of figured, like, or how I always thought butterbeer should taste. Um, so anyway, if you have questions about the recipe, feel free to ask down below or you can message me. I know I do books a lot more than cooking, but I had to share that with you guys. I was so excited when I first tried that cake and there was that wonderful, delicious flavor that I'd been looking for. The burnt sugar syrup with the butterscotch chips is so delicious, and next time I'll remember to brown the butter, because that would have made it even better. If you would like more Harry Potter content, I do co-host a podcast called Dialogue Alley with Melanie, Eric, and sometimes Peter, where we talk about pretty much all things magical, and I'll put that information down below. If you have questions about collecting Harry Potter books, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me at my website, alltheprettybooks.net, my email, which I'll put down below as well, and my Instagram, alltheprettybooks, and I'll put that information down below too. And if you would like to chit chat in the comments, feel free to do so. I never mind chatting with you guys. In fact, I really enjoy it. With that, I'm going to say y'all are great. Don't forget how magical you are. And as always, very happy collecting, and good night.